We heard about technology and the development of technology and the time periods and the vast improvements that can happen when dedicated research and investment is poured into this. The initiative I work for is looking at the other part of that equation, which is human behavior. And in many ways, the governance, the human decision-making process, is actually the hardest part of this whole equation. So I'll say a few words about the initiative because it's relevant to how carbon dioxide removal might be understood by society and might be governed under existing UNFCCC frameworks. So our initiative is very small, and we're basically trying to take the research and the knowledge that is building up in the scientific community, go out into the world and speak with policymakers in national governments, in the UN system, here in the bank, in civil society groups. We even did a half-day briefing at the Vatican 2 years ago, because there are very profound ethical questions about some of these technologies. And when we have these briefings, it's very, very clear to us that there's a low level of knowledge among senior policymakers, not just about these technologies, which is to be expected, they're new, but really on the gravity and the urgency of the climate crisis. And if one doesn't understand that, then no one will understand, why are you talking about these new technologies? Why do we need to discuss this? Why are they being developed? So as I said earlier, we're now in the era of no risk-free options. We are headed towards 4C by the end of the century. That's a devastating number. And so when we go to these policymakers and start talking about what scientists are developing, it is always in the context of that larger risk framework. In other words, business as usual, we're heading over 3, even if all of Paris is implemented, which it's not. More likely 4+. On the other hand, there are a suite of new technologies generally grouped into 2 different baskets. One, carbon dioxide removal, which is what we're focusing on here today. The other, solar radiation modification, or what has been known as solar geoengineering. And the risks there are both known and unknown. And to Dave's point, I love the Department of Unintended Consequences. That is absolutely true. Because some of these technologies may not have consequences that we can measure for decades to come. And so decision makers, whether they're head of a large civil society group, whether they're the World Bank, whether the UN Secretary General, they have to look at these choices in this risk management framework. The risks of what we're currently doing versus the risks known and unknown, and not just scientific risks, but very importantly, political risks, security risks, human rights risks, ethical concerns, and make some choices